Hello and welcome to the show. We start this week's Downhill Chaos with the Mk3 Toyota Supra. Probably my favourite of the Supras. I do quite like the look of this particular one. Unfortunately, we have got no flamethrower out of the exhaust. Now this car is not got supercar levels of performance. We were never expecting it to tackle the very top of the table when it comes to racing down this mountain. However, on this very first run, I was quite impressed with how well the car... It took the corners very nicely, especially after all the rolling we had last week. Took the turns very nicely, actually dealt with the bumps very, very well. A large two-wheeled moment, but it didn't go over, unfortunately. I pushed the vehicle a little bit too hard, carried too much speed over the jump, couldn't quite get it stopped, and I tried to kind of chuck the car through the corner. Wasn't going to work though, ended up pointing backwards. It's one of the cars that I felt like I could take a lot of speed through this early part. Of course, when you try to do that, it's very easy for things to go a bit wrong. Just tap the rear on a rock and the car will go around in a circle. This time, managed to not spin out. May, though, have tried to take too tighter a line around the hairpin. We saw a number of cars go over like this last week. It's easy to do. Just trying to find that bit of time. You turn in a fraction too soon, and the sort of the drop-off from the rock face is so massive that, yeah, not particularly difficult to roll the car there. However, that was the only place the Supra was really having, or the only place I rolled the Supra there. The bigger kind of issue with this car was the back end letting go on you. At that time, on the landing of the jump. Now, we've seen the back end get loose. It's actually quite rare for a car to fully go around at that section. Normally, you just sort of the back end bounces back up in the air. You can't slow it down for the next corner. That's when you have an accident. This one, I outbraked myself. I was getting braver and braver with the car in trying to take more speed, and that was too much speed. And that is a place that you will have the car go over. I was trying to get the car to go back on its wheels. It was having none of it. Decided it wanted to toboggan down the hill on its roof. We do, though, hit a rather solid part, and that will send the Supra tumbling before eventually coming to a rest with all sorts of bits of bodywork, continuing their escape down the mountain. Next run, we got closer towards the end. This time, the back end lifted up, but we didn't get a spin. I was going far faster than I thought I was. Tried to tip it in to this narrow side road, and that didn't work at all. We, yeah, running across that banking, it's so steep that you're going to get yourself in trouble. Sure enough, the Supra went for a pretty large tumble, fair amount of damage actually to the back of the car. This part of the road can be a bit of a pain. This time got the speed perfect, however, I didn't realise how much the bushes affected the car. I hadn't had too many problems before. I thought I'd be a little bit cheeky again, you know, just trying to carry momentum, carry more speed, and in doing that, we learned out that the bushes can affect this car. It's certainly nowhere near as bad as some vehicles we have seen, but it can get affected, and the back end still wanted to do its own thing from time to time. Again, it's just a case of I'm pushing the car, I'm wanting to get that little bit more speed out of the vehicle, and while we had the front end grip to turn in, and we probably had good enough brakes to get it slowed down for the next part, the back end wanted to come around, and that was enough to send me over the edge of the mountain. Took a few attempts to get the hang of this car. It wasn't so much that it was a horrendously bad vehicle, just as you push the car more and more, it gave you a fair bit of confidence to try and go faster and faster, because the suspension was good. I mean, that's a huge amount of speed across that jump. Most cars, I wouldn't go for that. I wouldn't go for that sort of speed. It'd be much better off be slow across the jump and focus on the landing, because you don't trust those cars with landing at sort of 50-odd miles an hour. This thing is absolutely fine to do it, though, which was nice. It was lovely to have a car that you could really attack the course in that manner. Made sure not to turn in too soon on the hairpin that time around, making sure also to get it slowed down enough so that the back end doesn't let go. And that was a little bit of a shame with this car as we get very close to having an issue, just running a wheel through the ditch there. I thought for sure it was going to be a goner. Managed, though, to keep it all together. Yeah, it was a little shame that there was just that constant there was a slight fear through the medium speed corners. The rest of the track, you know, you could absolutely throw the car about, but through these higher speed corners, there was that slight fear that the rear end might let go. The bumps and the jumps were no problem. Aside from that one accident I had, again, with the back end bouncing up and the rear letting go, that was the only issue I had with any of the large bumps around this course. Second to last corner, no problem whatsoever for the Supra around the final turn and the run towards the line for the Toyota. I like this car, I've got to say. I thought it was a really rather nice vehicle. A little shame that the back end wanted to let go so much down here, because yeah, that just kills your speed through a couple of corners. You just don't take as much speed because it's not going to hold itself onto the road. Up next, an interesting prospect. As soon as I saw this, I knew I had to take it down. Chiliad, the hikers wanting to get in shot, of course. The Autounion Type D classic Grand Prix car. This one will spit a lot of fire and apparently terrify the hikers that were well clear of the car. Now, I was expecting it to be a complete and utter handful, really. A 1930s Grand Prix car trying to go down Mount Chiliad. This sort of thing, not designed for off-roading. I mean, you know, the Supra, not designed for this kind of off-roading, but this even less so. But amazingly, it actually wasn't too bad. I was surprised just how well the car was dealing with all of these bumps. Unfortunately, it all went wrong the same place it did with the Supra for a completely different reason. I wasn't expecting it to get stopped as soon as it did. I then took a wonky line through the next corner and immediately rolled the car. There's some slightly odd physics with the wheels when the car's rolling, that the wheels kind of don't exist. We've had it before, I think, on an open-wheeled vehicle as well. When all the wheels are on the ground and the car's going forward, normally it doesn't matter, but if it just sort of tips over, for whatever reason, they clip through the floor. Not sure quite on that one, but there we go. Yeah, this... I expected a lot sillier vehicle. I expected to have a lot more problems. This car was again pretty good with the bumps. It survived the landings of the bumps a lot better. You could get it wrong, and it wasn't quite as smooth as the Supra we saw on this one here. I ran a little bit wide, upset the car, and this was quite a bit quicker than the Supra, and when it did get upset, you were often in quite a lot of trouble. Exactly the same place, almost exactly the same way that I spun the Supra in a previous run. You're carrying that fraction too much speed, and once you run up the rock face, the speed that these cars are going and how narrow the course is, you can't stop the car again. However, it didn't take anywhere near as long to get the Autounion down to the bottom of Chiliad as I was expecting. You know, you think of a car like this being completely and utterly uncontrollable when it comes to Chiliad, and certainly there are some scary moments even on this run. You see the car bouncing around. I didn't have the bravery to take the same speed that I did with the Supra across that jump. It was easier to kind of just be neat, focus with being neat with this car, because it could get away from you on the landing. It had incredible acceleration, so it would catch up to the sort of speed that the Supra was doing pretty damn quickly, because there was a huge amount of acceleration in this car. Not quite, though, the same composure as we come towards the first of the big jumps. Landings, again, weren't too bad on here. Got to be careful of the big bumps around this turn. The easy place to have a car oversteer, but the Autounion was gripping nicely through here. Again, probably the largest of the landings. No problems for the Autounion. Now it's all about how much speed dare you take over the fastest of our jumps. Wasn't going to do too much stupid, as you see there. Even with a relatively slow speed landing, things can get a little bit scary. The Autounion, interestingly, was fine to go through the bushes, which is always nice to have a car that has no problem with these. It gets all a little bit wiggly as I try and get on the power out of the second to last corner. However, it stays together as it tumbles its way across the line. Yeah, things got a bit scary and a bit bumpy around those final turns, but a little bit of fighting with the car. Still made it. I was really not expecting the Autounion to be as comfortable as it was dealing with all of those bumps. It was remarkably civilized to drive very fast. Things could go wrong, but yeah, remarkably civilized. We also managed to bend one of the brake discs quite considerably on the front. And finally, we have got the new Bugatti, the Bugatti Chiron. I don't know. That's what I'm going to call it. Close enough. A rather interesting prospect, this car. You would expect it to be really rather quick, perhaps a tad uncontrollable. Again, a car not at all designed for going off-road. Colouring is rather nice, though. This is a brutally quick car. And the most impressive thing about it is not so much the acceleration. It is the fact that you can make the most of the acceleration in this car on a course like this. This is really well outside the Bugatti's comfort zone. However, it is very, very accessible. Racing this car down here was not massively difficult. On the first attempt, I got a fair way. As I was trying to carry more and more speed, we ended up leaving the jump there a little bit wonky, and in doing so, we kind of rolled the car on landing. Don't see that very often at that part, but things can go a little bit wrong. The next attempt, I was trying to avoid the hikers, and I just put the power down at the wrong moment. Got the rear wheel over the edge, and that was enough to spit the car out. If you do get things wrong with this car, it's going incredibly fast, so you have a big accident, and there's very little in the way of time to react. It was on the third attempt, though, that I got a clean run with this vehicle, and that says just how accessible, how easy it is to go very, very fast in this car. A bit more airtime than we had in the Autounion. Again, very manageable in this. You line the car up nicely to fire it down the very short straight. Around these turns, we have no issues with the Bugatti. The brakes are phenomenal. That is a huge stop. I thought I'd overcooked it coming across that little sort of hill. Very, very easy to, if you've taken too much speed, not get the car stopped. But the brakes on the Bugatti were monumental to slow it down and get it turned. Coyote gets very, very lucky as I jump over it. Again, still carrying fantastic speed around these turns. You can just chuck the car in to the corner and it will have grip. And then if you have overdone things slightly, you can get on the brakes and it will slow down remarkably fast as we now come to the fastest jump of them all. Actually land a little bit nose first, perhaps not a bad thing, kills some of the momentum, and the landing works out quite nicely. You absolutely throw the car from side to side up towards the second to last corner. Huge amount of airtime, but still we get the wheels back on the ground to fly through the final corner, and it is across the line for the Bugatti. Unfortunately, bumped the splitter a little bit on the landing. The car did end up firing off into the trees. But a mighty, mighty car, this one. Again, much like the Autounion, was not expecting... I mean, I was expecting it to be a bit easier to drive than, you know, a classic Grand Prix car, but I was really not expecting a vehicle that is this fast to be so effortlessly controllable going down Chiliad. You know, the Formula 1 cars are incredibly quick, but they are not nice to drive down Chiliad. The Bugatti is really very, very impressive. Its time is by far the fastest of the three, who will put it into 6th place on the leaderboard. The only car to have beaten it is the Renault F1 car, and that is only by 0.4 of a second. And the Bugatti is a hell of a lot easier to drive than any of the other vehicles on this page. So much easier to drive. Yes, it is down on the bikes. The Honda, the Enduro, the Electro. They are phenomenally fast when it comes to going down Chiliad, but still that is a very quick time from the Bugatti. The Autounion also sets a damn impressive time, a 1:24.3, a very, very crowded area of the table. This is essentially the fast road car section. Sultan RS, Lotus XCs, that Peugeot 508 is still clinging on in a 32nd place. Less than half a second separate these vehicles here. So yeah, to go into that place, it beats the McLaren 650S GT3 car. That Autounion is far better than expected. Really surprisingly nice drive down Chiliad. And the Supra goes still relatively fast road cars. A little bit more spread out this section of the table. Supra goes into a 64th place. It's same time as a Banshee 900R, loses out slightly to the Maserati Gran Turismo, the Ultimate Aero. Still not a bad area of the table to be in, especially considering the slight oversteer scares that you could get with that Supra. All three cars today were really rather good. That Bugatti is absurd. The Autounion is nowhere near as crazy as I was expecting it, and for, you know, a considerably underpowered vehicle, but the considerably slower vehicle is the Supra. Still a lovely vehicle to drive, a great car to go driving with. So yeah, I highly recommend all three of these vehicles. As ever, I'll put links to all of the mods I have used in the description so you can download them, have a go with them yourself. But that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.